and welcome to another video. In today's lesson we are going to make this groovy granny square market bag. This is part of our Christmas Eve cast on, and if you are joining for our Christmas Eve cast on then thank you. A Christmas Eve cast on is a project that we do every year and it's released just before Christmas, and the idea is that on Christmas Eve, wherever you are in your part of the world, you start this project. It could be in the morning, it could be in the evening. But we started on Christmas Eve and we think about everybody else and the crochet community and what we are thankful for that year. There is a free written pattern located on my website. I will put a link for you in the description box below. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers, and when we get to 10,000 we are going to have an awesome giveaway. So let's get started on the lesson. For our supplies we're going to need a yarn needle with a large eye, a pair of scissors, a crochet hook to go with your yarn, but you do want to use a crochet hook that is smaller than what's recommended. This yarn here is Red Heart Super Saver. This is a 10 ply in Australia. It's about an Aran weight in England, and it is a number 4 worsted weight yarn in America. And it recommends a 5.5. I actually have loose tension. I would use a 5mm crochet hook for this, even though it recommends a 5.5 because my tension's loose. I am going to be using a 4.5, but if you normally use a 5.5mm crochet hook, I would suggest using a 5mm crochet hook. This project is going to work in 8 ply, which is a UK DK weight or an American number 3 weight yarn, which generally recommends a 4mm or a G size crochet hook. So you want to drop down a size, so I would recommend a 3.5 or a F size crochet hook. You just want firm tension because it's a bag. You don't want it to stretch too much, and that's what we're aiming for. You can make your granny squares in different ways. I have 4 granny squares, but you could make just one big granny square if you like. These granny squares are 8 by 8 inches or 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters square. But if you wanted to make a 16 by 16 inch square, which is 40 by 40 centimeters, then you're most welcome to do that as well. I wanted a couple of granny squares, so that's why I've made 4. Basically you're just going to make a square. If you wanted to make 9 granny squares in different colours, you could do that, because you just want it to be a square, so whatever you've made, then that's fine. Also, you can use different crochet patterns. This is a traditional granny square, as you can see, but you can use any granny square pattern that you would like. I have lots and lots of granny square tutorials here on my YouTube channel. I will put a link in for you so that you can go and check them out. But basically any granny square pattern that you like, you can use it. You don't need to have a traditional granny square edging like this one. So let's say the middle section is a completely different granny square. You don't need this traditional granny square here, because once we've joined them all together we are going to just crochet along into the crochet stitches that we have here. So they could be single crochet stitches at the top, they could be double crochets, half double crochets, doesn't really matter, as long as what you've got is a square piece. You can also adjust the size of this bag by making smaller or bigger granny squares, but overall the square that you start with, you can change the size of that too. So I'm going to list the colours on the screen of the colours that I have here. So let's see if I can test my memory. But this is bright yellow, pumpkin, hot red, shocking pink, no idea, turqua, and spring green. I really have no idea what that purple is, but these are beautiful colours, and like I said, this is Red Heart Super Saver yarn. Great yarn, available in many different colours. And there's also a affiliate link in my description box of this video tutorial where you can purchase this yarn. So once we have our granny squares, if you've made one granny square, you will not need to join them together because you've already got your square section that you want to start with. So I have 4 granny squares, so I need to join them together. You can do this in any way that you like. You could join as you go, so I'm going to again put a tutorial for you for the join as you go down in the description box down here. If I remember, it'll pop up on your screen here. And join as you go, basically for my tutorial, the last row that you do, you're joining them to the next granny square as you go along, so that's really cool. You could sew them together, so you can sew the two edges together like that. I will put a link for you in the description box for a sewing together tutorial. And also you can crochet them together, so not the join as you go method, but just the crochet, so single crochet them together. And that's the method that I'm going to choose because I like that method of joining. I haven't done it for a long time. Normally I join as you go, but I thought I'm going to mix it up and I'm going to single crochet them together. I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to be using my bright yellow, which is my center color, because I thought that would be a really cool color for the joining, and I'm also going to use it for the handles because I want something that's bright and fun. I think yellow is totally going to do that. Does anybody else's yarn balls do this? Like, really? What's going on? This poor ball of Red Heart Super Saver has seen better days, but this is what I'm going to be using, the worsted number 4 Super Saver yarn. And let's see if I got it right. I'm pretty sure it is bright yellow. Yeah, it's a pretty good name, I reckon. So I'm just going to rip this label off because it's really not doing anything at all, is it? It's somehow hanging on. And they just, yeah, this is because this ball of yarn has been in a scrap project bag for so many projects that it's just, yeah, it's just all, it's not in a very good way. But I'm going to put it aside and we're going to work with it. So first of all, we want to grab 2 granny squares. You could block these if you wanted to. With the bag, you don't really need to. I'm not going to bother. But if you want to block your crochet, you're most welcome to. And we're going to join them together. So what we want to do is put them right side up. If you have turned your work at the end of your granny square rows, you won't need to worry about that because you won't have a front and a back, so to speak. But if you haven't turned them, which is what the method I do, you've got a front and a back. So the good side looks like this. You can see the stitches there. And then the back side looks like this. The back side's kind of like bumpy. See how it's sort of got the little bumps everywhere? If I fold this, you'll be able to see the 2 different rows. So you've got the bumpy bits here, and then you've got more straight, longer bits of yarn on that side. This is your good side, and this is the, not the bad side, but this is the back and this is the front, or it's known as right side and wrong side. So you want them both right sides facing up, and we are going to push them together like that, so that our wrong sides, which is the back, are touching each other. We're just going to pick those up like this. I'm just going to pick them up just so they go together. So you've got wrong sides together like that. We are going to grab our yarn we want to use for our joining. If you're sewing them together, you may just want to use the same colour that you've got on the last round, and that's going to totally work as well. And that's what I like about this project. We can modify it to what we like. So I'm going into the chain space in the corner, and we're going to go in the chain space in the back square. I'm going to just pull that through. Just make sure you've got enough there. You can crochet over this because we are crocheting along. I think I just won't crochet over it because literally you're just going to keep it on top of your work like that and just crochet over it. But if I do that, I think it may confuse some people if you have not done this before. So I'll just pop it and hide it. I'm going to do a chain just to anchor our yarn in there. We're going to go through the chain space again, through the back chain space, which is here. I'm going to work a single crochet. I'm going to assume you know how to do a single crochet. So going into the first stitch on the front granny square, going into the first stitch on the back granny square, so that's our chain space. This is the first stitch. I put my finger in between like that just to separate them. So I go into the first one, into the next stitch. You can see this one's work. See how the yellow yarn is coming out of there? I'm going to go into that next stitch. And we're just going to do this all the way across. And what you should have is your stitches will be lining up. So you can see we're on the next lot of 3 double crochets. So the first double crochet should line up with the next stitch on the back, which we can see we've crocheted into that one. And this is the next lot of 3 double crochet. That's our first stitch. So they're both lining up. which is awesome. If they're not, you've done something wrong and you've got to do it again. Just make sure that loop doesn't go too loose. And we're going to crochet all the way across, lining up all those stitches. And what it does when we single crochet them together, it leaves this little ridge like that. Let's pull that out so we can have a look. And it leaves a little ridge. You can kind of see it. Can you see it? It leaves a little ridge on the top, which I think gives a bit of added dimension and makes it so it's not all flat. Some people don't like the ridge. I know a lot of people don't like that. But personally, I think it looks cool. So I'm going to do it. But like I said, you can personalise this any way you want. If you don't like the ridge, you can sew them together. If you don't like sewing together, you can crochet them together. Or you can join as you go. There are so many different methods to joining granny squares that, yeah, do it any way you like. So we're going to do this all the way across, and I'll meet you when we are ready to show you the next section, which will just be when we're up to the next chain space, which is on our corner over here. So pause the video and I'll see you there. Up to the end, I'm just coming up to my chain space, so I'm going to go into my chain space and into that chain space, and I'm going to do a single crochet. Looking good. Love that join. So to put in our next lot of granny squares, this is where the fun starts. We're going to get our next lot of granny squares. I'm just going to pop this aside. We get our next lot of granny squares, and we want to put them the same way that we did the other ones, otherwise they're going to be upside down and back to front and all sorts of things. So we're going to have them right side, so this side is our right side and they're facing up. When I make granny squares, I'm making a few, I always stack them when I make, like I've made some, so I finish this one and I'll stack it on top of the other one. And I always try to, if I remember, put them right sides up, so when you have to join them in any method that you choose, they're already right sides up, so if you forget to check it, you know that it's okay. If you forget to check, trust me, it happens. And then they're not right sides up in the stack, you're going to have one joined upside down, like it'll be the wrong side, and you may have joined more after it and not realise, and you've got to pull out all that work. Been there, done that. Learn from my mistakes. So we've got these two right sides up, and we're going to pop them together, so just push them together so that the wrong sides, which is the back, are facing each other. Again, I'm just going to grab both sides, just pull them up, give them a bit of a shake so they're together, and we're going to crochet into the next chain space. We're not breaking off our yarn, so yay for less yarn ends. Now this is going to be fun. I'm going to look like I'm all thumbs. This is much easier to do when you're sitting down, and sitting down on the couch. I am sitting down filming, but sitting down on the couch somewhere easy, not wrapped around a video camera. So go into the chain space, make sure this loop here doesn't go really loose. It will, because you're sort of mucking around, but just make sure you fix it after. So go through the first chain space. This is our back granny square. Going to go through that chain space. I'm going to pull through, and this is when that can go loose, so maybe just pull on this yarn here that's attached to a yarn ball, give that a bit of a tug, and go through. You don't want that there too loose. Okay, so we've got to go to same thing on this one. We're going to go to the first stitch, which is here, and then the first stitch on the back square. We've got our chain space. That's our first stitch, is it? Hang on. Yep, that's our first stitch there. When you're actually crocheting, you're going to do this in one sort of swoop. So you're going to go into this one and through the next one, and just making sure, like visually looking and going, okay, let me just, I can see this where I'm sitting, but turn it towards you. This stitch here has got a yellow yarn coming out of it, so we know that this one here, where the crochet hook's coming out, is our next stitch. So basically you just poke it through in one motion. Go in, making sure you're grabbing all the loops. You can do this joining with maybe just the front loops of both squares or the back loops of both squares, but I think because this is a bag, you want it to be quite a tough join, like quite a secure join. so that we don't have any breakages. You can see now that our granny squares are joined. They're not joined there, but they're joined at this point. We're going to crochet all the way across until we get to the end of this side, which is over here. If you've got more granny squares, you're going to add them on in the exact same way we just did these two. So we're going to crochet across until we get to the end of our row. I crocheted all the way across, and I've done one crochet into my chain space there, you can see that, and we're ready to finish off. And we're going to just pull our yarn through and then cut our yarn. I'm doing this in a way I've never done it before, but anyway, just leave a loop that's long enough. You want to make sure you have 2 to 3 inches of yarn from here to there. I don't normally do it that way. I normally cut through and then pull it through. Just pull that out and then just pull that tight. So don't worry that it looks a bit odd. This bit here is kind of like hanging out in the middle of nowhere. Doesn't matter, that's going to get all fixed when we continue on. So we're going to open out our granny squares, and you can see now that we haven't joined, or we haven't got there, but we're not joined going this direction. We've done across, but now we want to do up and down. So we're going to do the same thing. Remember how we put our granny squares? They're already right side up, so we don't have to worry about that. And we just push them together. We've got this bit here coming together. We're just going to grab those, just lift it up, give it a shake, and just sort of lay them on top of each other now so they're all lined up. So now we're going to have our join going up and down, and it's going to go up and over, and it's going over the back. And we're going to join going across this way. So doing exactly the same thing, grabbing our yarn and putting it through our chain space, which is exactly what we did on the very first granny square that we, the first two granny squares we joined together. Let's get our tail. I'm going to crochet over this one so you can see what to do now if you want to do that. So we're going to just do a chain to secure. We're going to crochet into that chain 1, I think mine's a chain 2 space. So I'm going to go crochet into there. I'm going to crochet over this tail as I go, so I'm finding that first stitch and first stitch on the back. And this yellow is just going to sit along like that, and when you crochet, you'll see it'll just get captured in between. You have to just have to like hold it down with your finger there because it can get in the way. But we're going to do this all the way across, and if you've done this before you can work all the way across to the other end, but if you haven't I will show you what to do when we get to this section here. So pause the video and I'll see you when we're in the middle here. And we're going to crochet in our chain 1 space. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to skip over the middle section that's been joined there and go into the next chain 1 space. So go in there. My yarn is squeaking. I think it's because I'm using tight tension, but it keeps making me giggle because it sounds funny. I know it annoys a lot of people. Which I imagine it would if it was going all day if you were crocheting. So yep, then we're just going to go into the next lot of stitches like we did on the first one. Before, when I was just crocheting, I got to here and I didn't have the right amount of stitches left. I had some left on this one, but I had none left on the back one. So I knew I'd done something wrong further along the row, and it was sort of a quarter of the way along the row where I'd skipped one on the back. So I was one short all the way along pretty much, but didn't know until I got to the end. So yeah, if you get to the end and you've got a different amount of stitches left, then you know you've somehow skipped one, or yeah, just go back and have a look. So crochet across now all the way until we get to the other end. So pause the video and I'll see you there. We now have our granny squares all joined together, and we just need to finish off our yarn. So I'm going to show you the way I normally do it. This is what I normally do if I'm sitting on the couch or whatever. So I would just finish my stitch and then I grab my scissors and I just pull up there, and I just pull a little section up and then just snip it off. And that gives me about 2 to 3 inches. It should be a little bit longer than that, but my end's a bit short. But that'll be enough for me to sew in. Now you want to sew in your ends if you would like to, or we can crochet over them as we go, and we can crochet over them as we add the next section of our bag, which is going to be our handles. So if you've joined your granny squares together, they're going to look like this. That looks so cool with that yellow joining. But if you haven't joined a granny square together, like you've got one big one, then you won't have this, and it'll still look really cool. The next section is how to add the handles on. Now it's time to add the edging and the handles onto the bag. What we're going to do, we have a square, so we have 4 sides, and it doesn't matter which way your granny square is sitting, because generally granny squares are all the same anyway, direction they go. We've got the top of our granny square up here, so I'm going to treat these 4 as just one big granny square now, because we've got one big square. If you have made my cross-stitched bag before, this is the method that we use to add the handles to that bag. So if you made that bag before, then you've got some practice on how we added our handles. So what we need to do is grab any side. So we want to grab that. We want to grab our yarn that we're going to use for our handles. I'm going to just keep going with my yellow. I do have a lot of this yellow, so I want to bust that stash. So if you are joining us for the Christmas Eve cast on, thanks for joining us. We do this every year. This is our 3rd one, I think. Scraptastic granny blanket, and we've also had the basket weave blanket. These both could be used to make scarves or dishcloths. And then this year, which is 2018, we are having the granny square bag. I thought I'd change it up this year. We had 2 blankety type projects in a row, so I thought I'd do something different, and this one's much quicker to finish off. So we've got our yarn there, we're going to join it in like we have done before, and we're going to single crochet all the way across. So single crochet in the chain 1 space. If you haven't got a chain 1 space, just join it into your corner there, and along one edge of our square we are going to single crochet all the way. I'm crocheting over my tails as I go, because I do not want to sew in any more ends after doing those granny squares. So we're going to single crochet all the way across. If it bunches up like that, because it's going to be tighter than a double crochet stitch, don't worry, because that's what we want it to do anyway. And on the next row we're going to be decreasing, and it's going to gather it in, so it doesn't matter. When we get to the middle section, this is our join. We're going to single crochet in the chain 1 space. We're going to single crochet into this yellow join. So you just want to go through, you can see there's kind of a stitch there, poke it in there, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. If you don't have chain 1 spaces on your granny squares, just crochet into the next section of your granny square. And you can see that that joins it to our join there. Before, this is how I did it first, and I didn't like it. See how that is not joined to that? So I think that, I know it's a small detail, but it isn't all in the details. So crochet into that yellow join, and then crochet into the next part of your granny square. We could turn this into a drinking game every time I say granny square. I'll be drinking water because I don't drink alcohol. So there we go, that looks much better on our join there. So crochet all the way across, and I'll meet you when we're at the end. I started over here and I've crocheted all the way across past my join, and I'm up to the other side. So we're only crocheting on one edge, because remember how we've got four sides to a granny square, and we only want to crochet along one side. So I have crocheted into the chain 1 space, and we're going to chain 1. We're going to turn our work around, and we're going to work a single crochet decrease in each stitch all the way across. So all the way across this one side that we just crocheted across. And what this is going to do is gather in our work. So we're going to single crochet decrease in the first stitch. The chain 1 doesn't really count as a stitch, so we'll ignore that. So go into your stitch, pull up a loop, go in the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over, pull through all 3. And what this is going to do is cut our stitches in half on this side. So we're going to repeat this all the way across. So repeat all the way across this one side, and I will meet you when we are at the end of the row. Pause the video and I'll see you there. When we get to the end of the row, if you've got just one stitch left, obviously you can't decrease over 2 stitches, just put a single crochet in there. It is not going to notice, trust me. One stitch will not matter. That's why I love crochet, you can just fudge it. What is it? Fake it till you make it. So the next row we chain 1 and we turn our work around, and we're going to repeat the last row. So we're going to single crochet decrease in every stitch across. How easy is this pattern? Well, I think it's easy. Does anybody else think it's easy? When you break it down into rows, it really is easy. So we're going to single crochet decrease in every stitch across. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we are at the other end of our row. You can see here it's really starting to gather. Well, you can sort of see it. It's really hard to show you stuff on camera. You can see there it's starting to gather together, so that's what we want. Pause the video and I'll meet you when we are ready to start the next section. We are up to the end, and what we want to do is chain 1, and we're going to turn our work around. And we're going to single crochet in each stitch, and we want to do this for 2 rows. So when we get to the end of this row, we're going to repeat that for another row. So we're just single crocheting in each stitch. But just do this all the way across until we get to the other end. Oh, hang on, I can leave the video going because it's not very far. So we can... This is going to confuse you because that looks like you can crochet straight across, but it's not. It's actually the edge of the work. Yeah, there's our last stitch. So that one, I'm pretty sure it's that one. If it isn't, it really doesn't matter because, like I said, one stitch is really not going to make a difference. So we want to repeat this again. I'm sure that's bugging me now. Is that really the last stitch? Yeah, it looks like it should fit now, doesn't it? Because those holes are all lining up. Yep, I'm convinced that's the last stitch. Chain 1 and turn your work around, and we're going to single crochet in every stitch across, and that should bring us to the right side of our work. Remember how we could tell with this one has the long stitches and the back has the bumpy stitches? So I'm currently on the right side of my work, and we're just going to finish it off with this single crochet row, and we're going to work that all the way across. So pause the video and I will meet you when we're at the other side. I'm up to the end of my row. I'm going to cut my yarn and I'm going to pull that through, and don't worry, we can crochet over most of these tails, which is awesome. So now we're going to work on edge number 2 or side number 2. So let's just lay this right sides facing up. So we just did one of the sides of our square, and we've done that top side. You can see this is really small, so this is not going to make a very big bag. So this is going to make a small bag, but of course if you wanted to make yours bigger, you would have made bigger granny squares. Did you have a drink? So now we're going to do the other side of our bag. So you want to go to the opposite side. So let's just say this is at the top, and we're going to go all the way down, and we're going to crochet along this side. We want to make sure that, I'm going to spin this around, we want to make sure that the right side is facing us. So this is the right side. It's also where we did our join if you've got your join. So the one we just completed, the side is down the bottom here. This is really hard to show you. I need 5,000 cameras at all different angles, but I've got one. So we're going to go to the top edge, and we're going to repeat exactly what we did on the other edge. I'm not going to refilm that because it is exactly the same. You can rewind the video, or you can look at the written pattern, and trust me, if you've never read a written pattern before, this is really easy to read on this section of the bag. It's literally 5 rows, and it's a single crochet row, then the decrease row, another decrease row, and then 2 rows of single crochets. It's really easy to read, trust me. It's easy. Would I lie to you? No. So we're going to do that. We're going to repeat it the other side, and I will be back on video when we have both sides complete. So you're going to have one down here and one up there, and both sides here, these sides, are going to be empty. So don't put your side over here because it's in the wrong spot. You want it opposite what you just did. So pause the video and I'll see you when we've got both our sides done. I have now finished the second side of my bag. So we now have our square looking a little bit weird. It's gathered on two sides, opposite sides of our work. Let me just get my camera and show you what it looks like. There we go, that's better. You've got one side of our square gathered, this side and that side are not, and then the opposite side to our gathered side, which is up there, is gathered also. So these are the sides of our bag, and now we're going to create the handles. Two opposite ends, we're going to turn it around, and we need our right side of our work. So if we do this edge now, it's actually the inside of our bag, so we need to flip it up so that we're looking at the right side. We will be looking at the join on there if you've got your 4 granny squares or however many. If you've got 1 granny square, you obviously won't have a join. We're going to go to the side here and we're going to look at our work. Now we're not going to join in this corner here, because if we join there, then this section won't get worked, and that's what we need to do. And I did not follow my own written pattern, because you're not supposed to cut the yarn, so you will get a thing across the screen telling you not to cut the yarn. I was actually watching a video on YouTube and not paying attention. Where your yarn is still attached to your bag, this may be a different side, it doesn't matter, because we have finished one of our second side, and then we're going to crochet along this way. So if this is your yarn still attached, then you're good to go. If not, I'm going to attach that yarn in. So attach it in, have enough to crochet over, do a chain just to secure that in. I'm going to crochet over both of these ends. Actually no, I won't, because you can, but I won't, because it'll make it confusing for you to see. So we have 5 rows of crochet, so we want to put 5 single crochets along this edge. So I've already got, I'm going to do 1, so we're going to crochet, single crochet into that first stitch. Then we're going to put 5 along, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So you're going to go into the end of each row. There's not really a stitch to go into, but you're going to make it up. If you can get through 2 loops on something, that would make your life a lot easier and make your join much more secure. I cannot get that one to be 2 loops, so that's going to be 1 loop. So that's 2, 3, go into that hole for 4, and go in here, you've got 2 loops for 5. So that's 5 single crochets along there. That just completes that little edge bit. And now we're going to crochet single crochet like we did on the other one. So I've just got in my chain 1 space and crochet in every stitch across. Again, if you don't have a chain 1 space, you're just going to crochet across your square. I cannot wait to see what you come up with all of your granny squares. If you've chosen the 4 like I have, if you've chosen 1 granny square, if you go on traditional, non-traditional, solid maybe, not so solid, I cannot wait to see what you come up with. So crochet all the way across, and we are going to crochet into that yellow section there if you've got one, like we did on the other square. And I will meet you, this is a lot of crochet in front of the camera, I'll meet you when we're up here, but we are just going to go 5 single crochets along that edge, so it looks like the other edge that we just did. But I'll meet you here and then show you what to do. Pause the video and I'll see you there. I have crocheted into my chain 1 space, and I'm also going to crochet 5 single crochets along the edge here. So let's go into that one. This is a little bit tricky because there's not an actual stitch to, you know, proper easy one to go into. So we're going to find 5 across, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just sort of spacing them out in my head. Try and get 2 loops. Like I said, sometimes it's impossible, but yeah, got them. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 right on that end stitch for 5. So that completes that first row. So we're going to turn it work around and we're going to work our first row of decreasing. So we want to do chain 1 and single crochet decrease in every stitch across. So single crochet decrease all the way across, and I'll meet you when we're at the end of the row. Pause the video and I'll see you there. I have turned my work around and I'm going to just pop this back on my crochet hook. Work 1 row of single crochet for this row, and then we're going to repeat that twice more. So altogether we want 3 rows of single crochet. So this is our first row. And I don't really need to show you how to do this because we've already done it on the other sections. So single crochet all the way across, and you want to repeat that 3 times. Pause the video and I'll meet you when we are at the end of this section. Once we get to the end, we have completed our 3 rows of single crochet, and we are going to cut our yarn. Where's my scissors gone? Here we go. Pull that loop out and we're going to finish off. So now we have 1 more side left to go, which is the opposite one to what we just did this one, and now we've got this one to go, and we're going to spin it around so we are looking at the right side of our work, and we're going to attach our yarn over here, and we're going to repeat exactly what we did on the other side of our bag. When we get to the end of this section, we are not going to cut our yarn. Guarantee I'll forget and probably do it, but you're not going to cut your yarn because the next section after this one, once we've completed all 4, we're going to start on our handles, so we don't want to cut the yarn, we can just keep crocheting. But if you do, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we are ready and we have finished this next section. Did you cut your yarn? I actually remembered, cannot believe it. So don't cut your yarn. If you have, it's really no problem. Just join your yarn back in to where you would have finished off your last row. So now we have 4 sections of the bag. 2 are shorter, which are our sides, and then this one that we just completed plus this one here are the longer sides of our bag. Where your longer sides of your bag are, that's where our handles are going to go, and this short section is going to be the side of the bag, and we're just going to have crochet. We're just going to crochet around there rather than adding any handles or anything. So the handles will come off the points, which is here and here, here and here, and we're going to pop our handles on. We are going to crochet, we're going to turn our bag this way. We're going to crochet along the side of the bag, so I'm going to show you what to do now. So just to recap, you've got a short side here, and now my short side's over there, and then you've got the 2 long sides, which is where our handles are going to go, and this is going to be like the front of our bag, and then this is going to be the side of our bag. Working along the side of our bag, this is my other corner here. You can see it's not very long, but if you have made bigger granny squares or a bigger granny square, then you'll have a lot longer. But it doesn't matter how many you have. We are going to work a single crochet into each stitch on the side of our bag. So we're going to go into the very first stitch there, and we're going to single crochet all the way across. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we're up the other side, which is just over here. So you're just working that one side of the bag. Pause video and I'll meet you there. Apologies, I thought that was the side of my bag when that tail was coming out. I'm not sure if that showed on the previous section in the video, but you know it's the side of your bag because you'll notice that this crochet goes in that direction, and we're just working across until we get to there. Okay, I've got one more stitch there. So now we're going to be working along the top of the bag, which is the wider section of the bag, but we're not actually going to crochet along here. What we're going to do is we're going to chain 50, and this is going to make our handles. If you want a different size handle, 50 is just the number that I'm going with. You can definitely change that up. You can add more for a longer handle or add less for a shorter handle, but whatever you choose, make sure you write it down or you remember what it is, because you want to replicate that on the other side of the bag. If you think you might be having a break, I'd probably write it down, because otherwise you've got to count all your chains again. So we're going to make our chains. Like I said, I'm going to do 50, so we're just going to chain. You could add a I-cord. You could make an I-cord and crochet that onto there. You could use the first 3 stitches and make an I-cord. I'll put a link below in the description box for the I-cord video, and if I remember, there will be a little thing pop up on the right hand corner of the screen, and that will take you to the I-cord video. If you want to make I-cords for your handle, that's completely doable as well. So I'm going to make my chains and do that off screen. So I've made my chain. You can see all my chains there, and we're going to skip the side of the bag. This is the long side of the bag. We're going to skip all these stitches, and we're going to find the other side of this is the long side of our bag, so we're going to find the other side, and make sure that your chain is not twisted. Join that in here. We're going to do a single crochet, and then we are going to work down the side of our bag, which is here. So we've skipped the top of the bag where the handles go, so now we're just going to be working single crochet along the side of the bag, and this is the other side here. That's the end of the row for this short side of our bag. So now we're just going to crochet across. So I've got an end here that I can work over. So we're going to single crochet across. This first little section here, there's not really any stitches to go into because we're crocheting along the side of the other part that we made. And as we get further across, it turns into actual single crochets that we can go into, so it makes it much easier. So crochet across, and I'll see you when we are at the other side of this short section, which is over here. So pause the video and I'll see you there. I have completed my short side. Then this part here is the long side. It's one of the fronts of the bag. I guess there's like 2 fronts, depending on which way you're wearing your bag. Yeah, like this is the long edge. If I just move that around, you can see there is a lot more stitches on this one. So now we're going to do our chain again. So you want to chain 50, or the amount of chains that you did for your other handle. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we've finished our chains. Making sure that your chain is not twisted, and we're going to do a slip stitch to that single crochet that's just on the edge there. So now if you look at your bag, you can see that you have 2 handles, and they're going to be in the right position. I'm not going to show you that because I can't really fit this bag in the camera anymore. What we want to do now, you could even put a stitch marker in here, because sometimes I find when we come back around, matchy, that we cannot see where we started, so I just like to pop a stitch marker in there. It's not compulsory. What we want to do now is single crochet in each stitch around, and also in each chain around. So we're going to single crochet along here. I don't need to show you how to do that. We've got that down pat. Single crochet along there. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And you're going to come to your chains, and you're going to single crochet into your chains. And if you've got this far in the project, I'm pretty sure you know how to single crochet into a chain. So you're going to crochet all around in your chains. Did I mention this bag was too big to fit in the camera? So you can crochet all through your chains. So once you finish that first lot of chains, you'll come to the side of the bag again, and you'll just single crochet all the way across. You will come to the other lot of chains, and then you're going to crochet into those, and then that will bring you back to where you've got your stitch marker or the beginning of the round. And I'm going to meet you there. So pause the video and I will see you when we have crocheted all the way around, working 1 single crochet in the single crochets, and then working your way up onto the crochet chain. We don't work any more along there, we're just concentrating on this bit and then the chains. So pause the video and I'll see you there. I'm back to the beginning of our round and I'm going to join into that very first single crochet. And you can see how that would get lost if you were just crocheting along, you wouldn't know where you were. So we're going to slip stitch and we're going to chain one and work a single crochet into that same stitch. I'm going to put that stitch marker back in just so I remember again. And then we're going to single crochet all the way around again. We're going to single crochet along the short side and then we're going to single crochet along here, which is just the handles that have been created as we go around. So we're going to work one round of that and I'll meet you when we're ready to join. Pause the video and I'll see you there. Once we get to the end of this round, we are going to slip stitch the very first single crochet and we are finished this part of the bag. So we're going to cut off our ends. Cut off our ends? No, we're not. We're cutting our yarn. And we're just going to sew in that end, and any other end that we have, we can sew them in as well. So we can get rid of this stitch marker. Once we have all our ends sewn in, our bag is ready to go. I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you joined us for the Christmas Eve cast on, then thank you very much. If was this your first time for the Christmas Eve cast on, or have you joined us before? I would love to know. Also, let me know what colour made your bag. We also have a Facebook group now. We have a Facebook page, but we also have a Facebook group, and the group is fantastic for sharing your Bob Wilson 123 creations. So I will put a link for you in the description box for that as well. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy crochet.